West Virginia is 1-0 under Rich Rodriguez in 2.0. We're going to recap a little bit of what happened in week one and break down week two against the Ohio Bobcats here today on the Walk Thru GameDay Show.
Look at what happens when you're consistent, again, in all three phases of the game. Look at what happens when you're focused and you don't have the mental breakdown and the MAs that prevent you from doing exactly what they did in Stillwater.
Rich Rodriguez has a strong backing. Ken Kendrick, Pat McAfee, Ike Moore, so on and so forth. There's a lot of people with deep pockets that are ready to help this football team win.
Your lightning in the bottle guy is your lightning in your bottle guy. So sometimes you can't put him in that role because he's going to get beat up and nicked up throughout the course of the game, which does take away from his flashness and his ability to make big plays.
Give me the Mountaineers, baby.
But yeah, this rivalry it's a lot of fun. It has to keep going.
Let's go Mountaineers, all day, every day. Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone. It is the Walk Thru GameDay Show presented by West Virginia on SI. I'm Schuyler, Callihan, and that is legendary Mountaineer running back Eugene Napoleon. We've got a lot to talk about today, a little bit of recapping what happened in week one, more so the focus on, is this a trap game for West Virginia going to Ohio before the backyard brawl? We're going to have Napoleon's Dynamite making his player of the game pick, and then we'll get into our preview and our pick'ems at the very end of the show. We promise we will try to do much better this week in our pick'ems than we did last week. It was not too fun, but hey, it's week one. We're just shaking the rust off here, Gene, right? That's all. Just trying to get back into the middle of the our mid-season form. It's going to take us a couple of weeks, but we want you guys to take part in it as well. If you go 5 for 5 in those picks, you'll get Eugene's autographed picture of him toting the ball back in his West Virginia days. So make sure you stick around for that to make your picks. Also, hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. We greatly appreciate your support. And also a major tip of the hat to all of you fans. Last week, we set a record for, I believe, our game preview show here on the Walk Thru GameDay Show, and we also set a record on the Mountaineer Postgame Show for the most views on those two shows. So hats off to you guys. We couldn't do it without you, and we hope that you continue to keep breaking these records here throughout the season. So, Gene, let's go ahead and start it off with last week, Robert Morris, blowout win. Quarterbacks are always the talking point. We saw Nico had a really efficient day, 17 of 20. They didn't really ask him to do a whole lot, but still, he managed the game, showed that he could operate the offense. Quick thoughts on Nico and what he could potentially be in this offense moving forward before we talk about some of the other guys.
No, definitely played well, efficient, and that's what you want, and that's what needs to happen in this style of offense, and that's what Rich and that's what I'm sure the OC and the rest of the staff, that's what they expect. He was very efficient, and something that is really point. They didn't really ask him to do too much. You know, it didn't have to do too much. So can you carry that throughout the season when you're asked to put a little bit more on your plate in the passing game and in the running game? So it'll be interesting to see how he builds on this and how he stacks that week by week. It'll be interesting to see how that progresses.
Yeah, I think he did a pretty good job of cementing himself as the starter for now. And as I've talked about, like, I don't want to get into projecting, what he could be in maybe late November or whatever, because the truth is, like, there's a very good chance we see another quarterback start at some point this season. And I'm not saying that's going to be a performance type thing from Nico. Rich likes to run his quarterbacks. And at some point, you hope it doesn't happen, but there's a chance that Nico gets banged up, can't play for a week, and you have to insert maybe Jalen Henderson or Scotty Fox, the true freshman, or maybe even Max Brown. So speaking of those guys, Max Brown didn't play. He had a hamstring issue, so he's trying to work back from that. Should be able to go this week if needed. But we saw some pretty interesting things from the true freshman Scotty Fox. Jalen Henderson popped a couple of big runs. But the thing that caught my attention, and I talked about this on Between the Ears the other day, Rich Rodriguez said that he believes that Scotty Fox can play a lot of football this year, or he expects him to. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Does that mean he's going to play 4 games and then the bowl game and he keeps his red shirt? Does that mean he plays in every single game this year? What do you expect his role to be this season, Gene, if there is one? And also, do you feel like we're going to see 2 quarterbacks pretty consistently throughout the year?
Well, the one thing for Rich to say that, he's seen something that obviously he likes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure out of Scotty Fox, I'm sure what he's seen in practice so far, what he's seen in camp so far, he understands like Scotty brings something to the table. Not to say that Nico or the others don't, but when you can see Scotty Fox jump out that back door and hit that sideline.
And with the stiff arm too, man. Whew.
You know what I mean? He got some swag with him. You understand?
Yeah.
I think what Rich is saying is, I don't know if we can't leave that type of explosiveness on the sideline. And I have to figure out a way to make sure that he's implemented in this offense. Like you said, I'm not saying he's going to come in and start, but I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if we start to see some Scotty Fox packages in these games.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and same with Jalen Henderson. What my prediction, if I had to make one, if you really made me make a prediction here, would be that we'd probably see Jalen Henderson a little bit more, maybe even starting this week against Ohio. And we'd see that as the season goes along and you give him a handful of plays. And again, this is not a knock on Nico at all. This is not saying he can't handle that. It's just you're trying to protect Nico as best as you can while also giving some experience to some other guys in case Nico does suffer something, then you have somebody that can go and operate the offense and not have to change anything.
Right.
I think as we get towards the end of the season and Scotty's got some more reps logged in practice and maybe even a couple of games here and there, I would not be shocked if we see Scotty maybe emerge as that number 2 guy, maybe even leapfrogging over Jalen Henderson. I think that could be very possible as well. But I just don't see Nico being the guy 100% of the snaps every single week. Again, it's not performance-based. It's just you look back at Rich's offenses, he's always played multiple quarterbacks. What a lot of people forget is Pat White, when he started, there was a year he started 4 quarterbacks in total that season. 4. Right. And he had Pat freaking White. So, yeah, we're probably at some point going to see another quarterback. And that's why I think it's pivotal to get somebody else some of these reps as well, even if it's just a handful here or there. But moving on, we don't want to spend too much time on the quarterbacks. Some of the other stuff that we want to see cleaned up here in week 2 and moving forward, we kind of touched on it in the post game, but now we've kind of had a moment to digest it all. Gene, let's go with the offense first, and then we'll flip over to defense because I think the offense there's a lot more obviously that we can kind of pick apart here than the defense. So, what do you think there?
Well, first off, listen, and I know we ran the ball efficiently, but I would like to see more out of the running game.
You got to pop some big ones.
You have to, and I think, and again, because of the style of the offense, that's kind of expected in this type of offense. And I wanted, to be honest with you, I want to see more of a rhythm in what's being like the calls that happen against Robert Morris. I'm not sure, and we're going to see. We may see a different scheme of how Rich is going to call this game against Ohio versus what he called against Robert Morris.
It's going to open up a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to have to open it up a little bit because it's one thing to say, you kind of know, even though we didn't play well in the first half, you kind of knew that once we came back out in the start the third quarter, we were going to start clicking. You kind of knew that. It didn't surprise me at all. But my point is, if you don't open this offense up, you can't play the way you played in the first half against a quality opponent. That's going to come back to bite you. So I want to see the running game open up a lot more, so that way the play action, it feels a little bit more natural when you can go through play action because you're getting 5-6 yards a clip on the ground.
Yep.
Now you want them linebackers to kind of scoot up a little bit. You want that safety to kind of walk down in the box a little bit more. So now you can open up your pass game because you have an efficient run game. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more of that for sure. We have to definitely establish that a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. That's actually pretty much what I was going to say with the run game. It felt like there wasn't these big gaping holes that you maybe had hoped for going into it. It's yes, it's an FCS team. You want to be able to dominate those guys, but at the end of the day, it's five new starters coming together trying to figure this thing out. They haven't played a lot of ball together, number one, but number two, they really haven't played a lot of ball, period, at the collegiate level outside of Walter Youngbear and Landon Livingston, who's had a little bit of experience, but not much. So
Right.
for these guys, it's going to take some time. It's not going to be a polished product right out of the gate, but I think for this offense to really open up and be explosive as we expect it to be, they're
Mhm.
going to have to get a little bit more, separation, I guess, at the point of attack and kind of open up some running lanes for Jaheim because it just felt like there's too much clogginess. I don't know what a better word for that would be, but it just felt too clogged up to where Jaheim was just kind of bouncing into his own offensive lineman, had really not a whole lot of space to go. So
A little
that's
bit too
number
congested.
one.
It was a little bit too congested.
Congested. That's the word I'm looking for. Clogginess.
Yeah.
What the hell am I saying? Golly.
All right.
Congested. That's what I'm looking for. So,
Yeah.
and secondly, I think the offense. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the fumbles because I mean, again, we've already touched on that in the post game, and it is what it is. That's a fixable thing. But I want to
Right.
see more downfield throws, which I think is going to have to happen in this game. I went back and watched the Ohio Rutgers game. Gene, I'm telling you, there's going to be opportunities. There will be some opportunities. They play a lot of off coverage and they've given up
Yes.
some big ones. So I think there's going to be some chances there. Can Cam Vaughn, Jaden Bray beat those outside corners and do some things against the safeties? We'll have to see. So
Ooh, ooh.
yeah,
Let me answer that. Yes, they can.
you would hope so. You would hope so. So going over to the defensive side. I mean, I don't really know where to talk about this, Gene. I mean, yes, there's a few things you probably would have liked to have back. There's a couple of third and longs that they gave up first downs to, but when you talk about tackling for a first game, communication for a first game, all of these guys playing in a new system for the first time, you have all these different transfers coming from every different which way. I mean, I feel like we'd be nitpicking, right? I mean, but if there is anything that you feel like could be a concern, what would that be?
Well, first, I give the defense a B plus. I really, yeah. They played because considering, as you just stated, all those other things, they played well. I mean, very, very well. So the only thing I would say, maybe if I had to nitpick, you get them off, you get them off the field maybe 2 to 3 times versus what they did in those like 2 or 3 long receptions, third down and 6 or whatever it was, and they popped a little pass, they got the first down or whatever. Maybe Rich will go and want to clean that up.
Yeah.
But when you look at the defense, there's really, to be honest with you, in this game film, there's really not much to clean up. Tackle well, very aggressive to the ball, rally to the ball. There was nobody running wide open in the seams of the defense in the back, half of the defense. The communication between the safeties and the corners and the linebackers was really, really well. It was well established that they didn't look at a position. They looked as if they knew exactly what they were doing, which was a far cry from last year. So all of that stuff was cleaned up. And when they got to the ball, they got to the ball with ill intentions.
Mm-hmm. Boy, did you see John
Yeah.
Lewis? Woo!
Yeah. Come on, man.
Golly, man.
Yeah.
That dude's soul left his body on the sidelines.
I'm trying to tell you right now. So so no, for me, the defense played lights out. I would like to see them now take another step and build on that for this week.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So let's go ahead and move to next week because I pretty much echo the same thing as you, and I don't want to get too much into recapping Robert Morris here, but trap game. I don't know what to think about that. I think And I think even going back to the summer months when you've been on the show a couple times, I've always kind of said I don't view it as a trap game. I say it's more of a look ahead thing because you don't really have two strong opponents sandwiching this game. It's really just one in Pitt, or how do you want to quantify Pitt as strong or whatever? But you get my point here. Versus a
Right.
cupcake on the other side. I don't know. I think the more I think about it, I don't really think it's a look ahead or it's a trap game. We'll talk about it here in just a sec. But here's what Rich Rod had to say when asked about the narrative surrounding this one.
Oh, that's ridiculous. I mean, how do you avoid it?
How do you avoid that happening?
If they're thinking about other than anybody other than Ohio, they need to go somewhere else. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, I don't even thinking about Saturday. Right now, I want them thinking about how do I get through Tuesday's practice. Tomorrow, okay, what do I got to do to get through Wednesday's practice? Then we get to Saturday, okay, how do I win the game on Saturday? And then go from there. So that's not, that's not going to be that difficult for us to manage, I don't think.
I mean, Gene, it's hard to disagree. And after what Rich said, this is what got me thinking about even scrapping my look ahead kind of approach to this. If you really, really think about it, I think we just all get too into these narratives. And I think, I'm guilty of it too. Like I just said, I was thinking it was a look ahead game or whatever. But when you really think about how much time there is in a given day, in a given practice, in a given week, there is so much that goes into one opponent where when you're at practice, you're talking about Ohio, right? Or whoever that week's game is, or that week's opponent is. When you're in the film session, you're talking about either yourself or the opponent. You're not talking about Pitt. You're not talking about Kansas or BYU or Utah. It really is hard to see how anybody in that building even thinks about Pitt at this point. And to be honest, the other thing that really put me over the top on this too, there's 81 or 82 new players on this roster. Very, very few of them have even played in the backyard brawl, much less even know the importance of it. They'll get educated about it next week. Don't get me wrong on that. They'll find out what that means starting Sunday or Monday when they start talking about Pitt. But I just don't think that these guys really, I don't want to say they don't care, but they only care about the present. And that's all they should care about. What do you think?
Well, that's the truth. The bottom line is, here's the mark of a great coach, right? Not a good coach, a great coach. Don Nehlen did it for us in 88. That's why we went 11-0. We wasn't allowed to think about anything other than that opponent, that game prep for that week, and he did it along with the rest of the coaching staff. They did an excellent job of that. Nobody was looking outside of our given opponent for that week. And what Rich said is correct. We got Pitt. We're not worried about Pitt right now. We're worried about Ohio, because if we don't take care of the Bobcats, what? If we fall on things, listen, okay, you can't. So I think he understands he's not going to allow the coaching staff and the players to make that mistake of looking past Ohio. And don't get it twisted. Ohio is one of these teams that if you disrespect them, it could be problems.
Yeah.
Because they tackle well, they scheme well, they're well coached, and these are young men who want to prove a point just like anybody else, a la what TCU did to North Carolina. I digress. My point is, you can't overlook anybody at this level of football.
You can't.
Nor should you. So game prep this week is all about Ohio, as it should be.
Like I said, I'm very much guilty of it, of thinking this way as a media side of it. But even when I go back to when I played football, basketball, baseball, like I wasn't – whoever we were playing next on the schedule was all I was worried about, because I'm sorry, but when I'm thinking, okay, we've got a game against Brook this Friday or whatever, or this Thursday, whatever, I'm not thinking, whoa, I've got to figure out how Wheeling Park is going to hit me. Like – no, I've got to figure out how to get past Brook first. I can't think about that. So I think we just as media and even the fans, they start thinking way too much about the things that really don't matter in the games, and that's fine. We can do that. We
Right.
can talk about that. And but I just don't think it really creeps into that building as much as we'd like to talk about it. So, anyways, it's an
I agree.
interesting point,
No,
but
I agree.
I think the moral of the story here is not so much as is it a trap game or is it a look ahead game, but this is more of, hey, this is a team you better take serious. It's not, you just can't show up and expect to do what you did to Robert Morris last week, where you turned the ball over 4 times in the first half and still won by 42 freaking points. That's
No,
I think maybe
absolutely.
the angle that us and maybe some fans are taking here as, hey, just because you have a big one coming up, don't just think you can stroll into Athens, Ohio and just take care of business. You've got to show up, respect this team, because if not, like you said, they'll punch you right in the mouth and they'll keep punching. So,
Exactly.
anywho,
Exactly.
we're going to go ahead and get to a break here in just 1 second. But as always, we've got our trivia question of the week. And boy, I'm making these tough right out of the gate here, Gene. I don't know. But,
Yes, you are.
so here we go. Our Walk Thru Game Day Show trivia question, week 2. It is the last time WVU played in Athens. The Mountaineers lost 17-7 in 1949. That was a long time ago, Gene. You were around for? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You weren't around for that one. But who was the head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers at that time? Got some tricky ones here for you. Was it A, Dudley DeGroot, B, Trusty Tallman, or C, Greasy Neal? Tough one. So we'll get to the answer on the other side. You're watching the Walk Thru Game Day Show.
Let's go, Mountaineer Nation. The final whistle might blow, but the real breakdown is just getting started. Join us right after every WVU game for the Mountaineer Postgame Show. Instant analysis, real talk, and zero fluff. What went right, what went wrong, and what's next. We've got it all for you. Hit subscribe, turn on the notifications, and be part of the conversation. Win, lose, or draw, we're breaking it all down for you, Mountaineer style.
Want the most accurate updates on the West Virginia Mountaineers? Visit West Virginia on SI, the most trusted source on everything WVU. Several stories published every morning, every day before your feet hit the ground. From football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, transfer portal news, and more, we have it all for you. Every angle, every update, every morning. Welcome back to the Walk Thru Game Day Show. I'm Callihan, that's Eugene, Napoleon, and before we get into our game preview and other things that we've got on the docket here, let's get into our trivia question and answer again. So again, if you missed it before the break, last time West Virginia played in Athens against the Bobcats, they lost 17-7 all the way back in 1949. Who was the head coach of the Mountaineers? Was it A, Dudley DeGroot, B, Trusty Tallman, or C, Greasy Neal? Gene, what do you got for me, brother?
Well, look, oh boy, this is interesting. I like the name Greasy Neal.
It is a name. That is a name, ain't it?
Name, but okay. I'm gonna take Greasy Neal out of there. So I'm gonna be honest with you. 1949. I'm gonna go with A.
Hey,
Dudley
you gonna lock
DeGroot.
it in?
I'm going A. Dudley DeGroot.
Bingo, baby. Gene, Dudley
Yeah.
DeGroot was the head coach of the Mountaineers back in 1949. Yes, sir.
Let's go.
Not a very
Let's go.
memorable season or tenure for that matter, but yeah, some interesting names there. Greasy Neal, that's a hell of a name, man. I know back in the early days they had some weird nicknames and stuff, but Greasy Neal, that's certainly one of them.
Yeah.
Trusty Tallman's a pretty cool name, but
That's pretty cool. But Greasy, he must have been slippery. He must have been a slippery fellow.
he must have been slippery tackle back in the 20s when he was playing. So, all right, Gene, you know what it is, my guy. It is time for Napoleon's Dynamite. It is your time of the show to give your player of the week to watch. Who will have the biggest day for the Mountaineers against Ohio?
Listen, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball for good reason.
Okay.
the man brings not only the wood, he brings lumber, he brings the whole daggone factory when he hits you. Good old number 5, Fred Perry.
I like it. Hey,
Fred
you
Perry,
had
man.
the very obvious choice in week 1 with Jaheim. And if there was ever a second obvious
Yes.
choice for Napoleon's dynamite, man, if there's someone packed with dynamite, it's Fred Perry.
It's Fred Perry. And let me tell you something. The thing I love about Fred Perry, he is going to play 100% every snap of the daggone ball. That's my kind of player. He's physical to the point of attack. And like I said, when he gets there, it's with ill intentions, and I love it. So to me, Fred Perry, I look for a double-digit tackle game out of Fred Perry. I look for a few big
Say it now.
hits.
Say it now.
Yeah, double-digit tackles and a few big, woo, that boy going to be hurting tomorrow type hits from Fred Perry.
Hey.
After this game, they'll be calling him Mr. Perry.
There you go. And look, this is going to be a very big game for him. And this is actually a really good pick because Ohio will hammer the hell out of the slots in the pass game. They love to get the slots the ball. That was their thing last year. Showed up again last week against Rutgers. They don't really like to throw the ball downfield a whole bunch. They will every now and then, but it's a lot of stuff in the, I wouldn't even say intermediate. It's really just a lot of underneath type pushing intermediate range. But Fred Perry's going to have to be there.
That's what their route tree does. We talked about it prior to, coming on, and that's just that's what they like. That's what they like to do. That's their staple.
Yeah.
But, okay, when number 5 get there, okay.
We'll see if people hear some footsteps coming and just might take an eye off the ball for just a second. That might be one of those things like last week, Justin Harrington on the opening kickoff had the flag for, the hit out of bounds, but hey, it sent a message, right? It set a tone for the game. I'm not saying that we're suggesting Fred to go out there and make a similar type of move, but I'm just saying it could happen. It could happen. He could send a message.
He loves to hit. He loves to hit. Yeah. So look, have ball, will hit.
Exactly. And look, we're going to talk about it in the breakdown here, the preview too, but he will be key not only for the slots, but man, he's got to be a big part in keeping Parker Navarro corralled up in that pocket and not escaping loose. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So let's go ahead and get into some of the other players to watch here. And I've lost my sheet here. Here we go. So on the offensive side of the ball for both teams, I'm going with Parker Navarro for Ohio, the slippery quarterback. Just does a lot of really interesting things. Dual threat, really hard to contain. He's going to be a star in this game and for the rest of the season. We're going to really probably talk a bunch about him here in this preview. For West Virginia, I'm going with Grayson Barnes, the tight end. I feel like we're going to get to see a little bit more out of him in the passing game this week. He had 3 catches for 37 yards last week against Robert Morris. Obviously had that one fumble that he'd like to have back, but I think he's going to be a big part in trying to get this offensive passing attack going. Defensively, for Ohio, I'm going Tank Pearson. He had 33 tackles and 4 picks. Last year, he had 6 tackles last week against Rutgers. He's got to have a big day because that Ohio front is essentially all new. And then, as you just mentioned, Mr. Fred Perry was your Napoleon's Dynamite pick of the week, so we got him there as our defensive player to watch for the Mountaineers. So, all right, Gene, let's go ahead with the West Virginia offense versus the Ohio defense first. Give me a couple of keys to the game. What absolutely has to happen, aside from fumbling the ball, of course,
right.
that they need to do here against the Bobcats?
Honestly, we have to establish the line of scrimmage. We have to establish the line of scrimmage, open up with a series of run plays, and gash this defense to kind of let them know it's going to be a long day in Athens. Even though you're home, it's going to be a long day.
Yep.
I think if we do that, obviously that opens up the passing lanes, that opens up, some deep balls. And I would love to see some deep balls. We got receivers, man. Listen, I know for sure Cam Vaughn is a stud. And I was blessed to watch him at Jack State, as I did Fred Perry and a few of the other players who came over, with Rich Rod and that staff from Jack State. But Cam Vaughn has big play potential every single time he touches the football. He's that type of dynamic player. So I'm looking for, hopefully we can really establish a line of scrimmage, like I said, get some gaping holes for our backs to run through, and then open up a huge passing game. And if we do that, I really think offensively, this game won't look like it did in the first half last week. If we can go out and couple the second half of that game and build on that, Schuyler, look, the scoreboard could potentially light up like a Christmas tree, because the offense has the type of big play potential type of players to do just that.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I think there's a lot of opportunities out there because, again, I went back and just before we hopped on, I finished rewatching the Ohio Rutgers game. Here's some of my notes. Ohio's defensive front, the first six, they play a 4-2-5 defense. All six starters are brand new. The three guys on the defensive line, they're all transfers. Gene, it kind of showed. You know, they didn't get a whole lot of push. They really did not control much up front. They didn't get really a whole lot of pressure on Ethan Callihan, the Rutgers quarterback.
Right.
It just felt like they were stonewalled, whether it was the run game or pass protection. They just could not get much going up there. So I think, and again, this is obviously a much stiffer test than what they saw last week, West Virginia's offensive line, but I still feel like it's a manageable situation to where they can build on what they did last week, improve some things, and maybe find a little bit more rhythm with that offensive front group up front. So there's that. I thought they really struggled to tackle, specifically in the secondary. I thought there were so many plays that they could have shut down, and there's a lot of yardage after the catch by some of Rutgers' big-time playmakers, but still, there was at least 4 or 5 tackles in that first couple of drives that I thought they missed just flat out, and they led to first downs, it led to touchdowns, led to Rutgers gaining a lot of momentum early in that first half. The way that game was going early on, it almost felt like Rutgers was about to run away with that thing. And then they obviously slowed some things down, but also I would be willing to bet, maybe we ought to put an over-under on this, Gene. Rutgers went for it 5 times on fourth down. They went 5 for 5. And not all of it. I think maybe one of those was a 4th and 1. All the other ones were like 4th and 5, 4th and 7, 4th and 6, 4th and 4. They weren't gimmies. They weren't just, the layups that you would normally think of. And some of I think even one of those came on their end of the field, if memory serves me right.
Yes.
I think you're going to see Rich Rod be extremely aggressive in this game within reason, because the tempo, although it didn't really show against Robert Morris, it didn't really take effect to them because of the fumbles, and that kind of threw them out of rhythm. They really want to gas the heck out of Ohio. And I think if you can get to fourth and manageable situations, if you go for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and you're converting those things, that's just resetting the thing. Because what people don't understand, and Rich talked about this in his press conference, you go for it on 4th down or you get it a first down on 3rd down, that's a whole nother, at least another 3 plays, assuming you don't turn the ball over, that your defense has to now defend. So
absolutely,
I really believe this is going to be a game where we're going to see Rich be really aggressive within reason and try to just control that thing up front. I don't know that they're going to run for 393 yards like they did on Robert Morris, but I think they've got a chance to pop some big ones and get Jaheim finally springing some big runs.
No, I agree. I agree with you, and I think he will. I think he will have a really big game along with some of the other backs. It feels like it's that type of game. It's building up to be that type of game, and I expect it, to be honest with you. I really do.
Yeah. Also, too, I think there's some things with Ohio's defense, because I don't feel like their linebackers were very active, and maybe that was just me misreading it or me misseeing some things, but I didn't see a whole lot from their linebackers. This could be a game where West Virginia's slots can be a huge benefactor, because you got Rodney Gallagher, who was kind of quiet in the opener. You have Man Singleton. You have Gerard Bowie. You have some other guys there. You could even throw Preston Fox into the mix if he wants to move inside. I know he's primarily an outside guy, but this could be a game where Nico just sits there and just carves up the middle of that field, because the linebacking play just wasn't maybe up to par in week 1. Not to say that it won't be in week 2, but I think there's going to be opportunities there too. So, last thoughts on the offense versus defense.
Well, remember, real quick, so our offense versus Ohio's defense, you're pretty much preparing for the style of offense that you're playing. I'm not sure if those linebackers will be sitting there the way they sat against Rutgers. They didn't scrape well, and they certainly didn't tackle too well. I'm not sure if that'll be the style of defense that they would play against our offense because of what we run. I'm expecting their linebackers to move and be very active. But again, if we control the line of scrimmage, I don't think it's going to matter.
No.
I don't think it's going to matter.
So, flipping it over here to Ohio's offense and West Virginia's defense, and we're going to spend some time here on Parker Navarro, man, because as you said, you watched him last year, and he impressed you, and you may have put me on to him like back way, may have been after the bowl game last year, and I wasn't even thinking about this matchup against Ohio this year, but my goodness, I mean, he's going to be a problem, Gene. And I don't want to build this up to make people think that he's the next Lamar Jackson or something like that, but he is a handful. And I don't know how else to put it other than he's just a freaking gamer, man. Like when you go and watch what he did against Rutgers, you can take what he did last year, the entire season. Gene, he rushed for 1,100 yards. He threw for 2,400 more yards. Like, he does it all. And when you watch him, it's so hard to figure out what to do against him because it feels like he has an answer to everything. When you send pressure at him, he gets the ball out extremely quick. He has a quick release, but he also recognizes when pressure is coming and gets it out fast. And there's some plays that he made against Rutgers where it just looked like backyard football. Like there were some things where you're like, okay, he's just out there playing flag football or something, trying to avoid getting his flag taken. He just goes, whoop, boom, nice little pitch, and then 15 yards. There's just some really interesting things that he can do. And I tell you, man, it's going to be a nightmare for Zach Alley at times this week trying to prepare for him.
He's fun to watch. And like I said, I had the pleasure of watching him last year and seeing what he brings to the table. Very athletic, very smart with the football. High football IQ, as you can see, tough as nails, not afraid to run, obviously, and can spin it. That's the thing. He can spin it. So I like that. You have to keep him contained. And it's kind of weird to say it, but he's the type of talent that, in a way, he's going to get his. You just have to limit everybody else. Okay? Because he's good enough. As a marquee, right? He's going to make one or two wow plays. You just have to limit his game to where he's not making 5 or 6 wow plays.
Oh, yeah, and he had that in about a quarter and a half against Rutgers.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah. You got to make sure this guy by himself doesn't have 6, 7 wow plays on you. And if you can do that, you should be okay.
Yeah. Some of the deeper numbers here that I dug up on him, this is just from last week, so obviously this could be a little skewed, but just a picture of as what Zach Alley has to go off of from this season. Under pressure, which every quarterback, I feel like this is kind of a layup type of a thing here that I'm saying here, but because every quarterback's going to struggle under pressure, but he really didn't do well last week. He was 2 for 8, 25% under pressure. When kept clean, he was 19 of 23. When teams were blitzing, see, this is the part where, Zach Alley, he's going to blitz a lot, but it doesn't always mean it's going to end up being a positive result for the defense. Last week, when blitzed, he was 9 for 12 with 2 touchdowns, Gene. 2.
Yeah.
And one of them, that was the one I was talking about where he looked like he was playing backyard football and just made something happen. So just because you send the house doesn't mean you're going to come up and get a stop. But a look kind of also here as to his passing diagram here, or his passing diet, if you will. 12 of 15 over the middle, 6 of 9 to his right, 3 of 4 to his left. He really obviously likes to throw the ball over the middle. and a lot coming within that 5 to 10 yard range. As I mentioned before, they don't take a lot of deep shots. They do a lot of work over the middle. Their number one receiver, Chase Hendricks, he's their guy. 9 catches, 115 yards last week. 26 yards was his longest. They're going to find him the football. They're going to find ways to get him the football. Nobody else had more than 2 catches last week for Ohio, so he is the guy to key in on, but more so with Parker Navarro, because I think he is just the straw that stirs this drink.
Absolutely.
Gene, I mean, how do you? I know you say you really can't take him away, but how can you take those big plays from happening or cutting those big plays down in half? What is the game plan do you expect Zach Alley to implement this weekend?
Personally, once again, the reason why that was the diet of choice was because it was against Rutgers. And Rutgers plays a style of defense where a lot of times they're man off and they're very laid back, and some of their zone reads and sky zones. Yeah, so you can do that stuff against that style of defense. You're not going to be able to do that against an aggressive front that we have that's going to put some pressure on the quarterback. You're not going to be able to do that because our corners cover very well, right? And the safeties hit very well. So there's a lot of things that I'm sure Ohio's looking at with the way that we scheme our defense and the mastery of how Zach Alley calls his defenses. It should give Parker Navarro and that Ohio offense some problems. It should. You don't know where the pressure is coming from, number one, and you don't know when it's coming, number two. You can't throw those we used to call them in the AFL trolley routes. Those 7 to 8 yard intermediate routes between the linebackers where you're running into the linebackers, but then again you're running away from them at the same time. So it's kind of like a quick slant, but then it's 0 out. So it looks like this. Bang, bang, and then out. That's a clever route to run because if the linebacker, you're kind of running into him. If the linebacker puts his hands on him when you go out, you're holding. So It's a really clever route to run. Now, off of that, they got the little banana route that they like to run. All that stuff is cute, but you can't make a steady diet of that against a West Virginia style defense. First off, when you run in there, the linebacker's going to knock your head off.
Oh, yeah.
That's one. You're not going to be able to cross his face. And when you do pull it out and you're running that little zag route, it's kind of hard because you got the defense in your face. I personally think Zach Alley's going to say, you know what? We are going to make him a willing runner this week. I am going to make him pull that ball down and run with it. I'm not going to let him sit. I'm not going to let him sit back there and stay on his mark. We're going to get him off his mark, and I'm going to make him run with the football. Because when you get tagged up a little bit, your arm might be a little sore. When number 5 gets the rest of that, you might be a little sore. I think because if I was a D coordinator, that would be my game plan. You are not going to sit back there and pat the football, survey the land. No, we're not going to let you do that. We're not going to let you do that.
Which kind of sounds like a dangerous plan when you think about it. But what you're getting at here is you're trying to make a dual threat quarterback one-dimensional in some way.
That's it.
And if you take one of his strengths away, I'm not saying that he's not going to hurt you in the passing game too, but it's almost like you got to pick your poison. And to me, I think his best is running the football. That's clear. And I think the passing game just kind of complements it. If you can take away the complementary piece to it, I mean, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And at that point, Zach Alley's going to be feasting because he knows what's going to be coming. The other part of this, too, that I like is that Zach Alley didn't show you-know-what last week against Robert Morris. It was as vanilla as it gets, as base as it gets. And Ohio, on the other hand, they had to throw the kitchen sink at Rutgers to try and pull off that upset. They showed just about everything that they're going to show or everything that they're going to run in that game because they had to. They didn't have a choice. So the fact that you have that, the fact that you have the piece that Ohio played Jack State last year, I know Zach Alley wasn't there, but that offense led by Parker Navarro, led by that head coach who was the OC at the time. He's got some things to really work with here. Where defensively, I mean, what does Brian Smith have to really work with? I really don't know. Just the Robert Morris tape. Good luck. You know what I mean? So
That's it.
a couple of other notes that I have here on Ohio's offense. They do have a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. They like to split the field 2 on each side. You'll see every now and then they'll go trips, but tight ends they'll play some. You'll see sometimes they'll go and motion. They'll put a tight end out wide and motion them in tight
Mm-hmm.
and do some things. They're wide receivers. I'll tell you what. I know we talked about Hendricks. He had 9 catches. They have some feisty receivers, and I'm not just talking in the pass game. They will block, and that is something that really jumped out to me. A lot of those plays where either Navarro took off and ran, or Bangura, the running back, made some big plays, or even plays in the pass game. Those other receivers, when they weren't getting the ball, they were down there getting feisty and all pissy with those defensive backs. Man, they were hungry to get some contact. Let's just say that. So West Virginia's defensive backs, they've got to be ready to go because they are going to get smacked across the face if not. These guys are rilling blockers. That's something that Rich Rod wants out of his guys. This group of receivers will do that. One point that I really, really, really want to stress here. Early on in this game against Rutgers, their center botched 2 snaps.
Yeah.
And some of that I feel like could have been first game jitters. I don't know. Maybe it was Rutgers. I don't know. But big Hammond Russell, right? I mean, he could have been my defensive player to watch in this game. Normally,
Yes.
I like to split it, one offense, one defense. So that's why I went with Grayson Barnes. Hammond Russell, he had 2 sacks last week.
Mm-hmm.
He learned a lot from Fatorma Mobile last year. He's been getting better and better and better. I would love to see him and maybe even some of those linebackers, whether it's Chase Wilson or Reed Carrico, pressure some of that middle of the interior of the offensive line, get him a little jumpy, start eating early, and hey, maybe you force another bad snap or 2. I'm just saying that's something I noticed.
Absolutely.
That you had 2 bad snaps within the first 2 drives of that game a week ago. Hammond Russell, maybe he plays a part in that. Maybe he does.
Hey, like I said,
Eat, baby, eat.
yes,
Eat, baby,
yes, yes. Let him go.
So, last thoughts here, Gene, before we start getting into the final part of the show here. So, what do you got lastly for the Ohio offense and West Virginia defense?
I just think, listen, the same thing I was feeling for our offensive line is what I'm going to feel for our defensive line. I think we have to control the line of scrimmage. You know, it's passe to say that, but I really do. I think, be real disciplined in your rush lanes, because that's another thing. You can't over pursue. You have to be disciplined, and at the same rate, be very intentional when it comes to getting these guys to the ground. Don't miss no tackles, and let's get them off the field. You know what I mean? I think if we don't allow them to convert, the 3rd and 4th quarter against Rutgers, Parker Bavaro and that offense converted a large percentage of their passes, and they converted a large percentage of 3rd downs, right? And that's what kept them in the game. They almost won that game.
That 3rd quarter was insane to watch them, how they came back and just scrapped and fought the entire way back.
Because they converted so many big plays on 3rd down, and we can't afford to allow them to do that. I don't think we will, to be honest with you. I really don't. But that's part of it. We have to not allow them to do that. You're
going to have to keep the foot on the gas on this one. You cannot let up one bit, because what I saw from that team, even when they were down, was it 31-14 or 31-17, whatever it was, I mean, I'm being straight with you, Gene. I thought the game was going to be over. I thought Rutgers was going to run away. It was going to be 58-17 or something like that. Ohio comes right out of the gates in the second half. They score. They get some stops. All of a sudden, you could start to see Rutgers kind of like, oh, crap, like this is happening. You know, this is about to get real. This is getting tight, not where we want to be. And I really think had Ohio got the ball back at the end of that game, they didn't get a stop, so Rutgers was able to run the clock out. They actually converted. If you didn't know this, Rutgers converted, what was it, 4th and 6 or 4th and 7?
Something like that, yeah.
Around the 2-minute warning. Ohio still had one timeout, I think. If they didn't convert that, Ohio has a chance to go down, tie the game, or win it. Rutgers said, you know what, we're not going to kick the field goal here because it really doesn't do anything. It's going to give Ohio the ball back, and they would still have a chance to win the game. So they went for it on 4th and 7. They got it. If they didn't get that 4th down, man, I think Ohio goes down and wins that game. I really do.
I'm telling you, they'd have went down and won that game.
Yeah.
Yes. So I agree with you. I was watching it saying, you know what? If Ohio gets this ball back, and I told my wife, they're going to win this football game.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100%.
All right, so there it is, our game preview. It is now time to get into our weekly pick'ems. And as we mentioned at the opening of the show, it was not too hot of a start for us here as we're just kind of shaking the dust off here. I went 2-3 last week. Gene, you went 1-4. Thankfully, for the Mountaineers, you didn't go over. So let's see. Hey, at the end of the day, I'm still on top of the standings here, so I gotta feel a little good, you know. So let's go ahead and kick things off here with an interesting game. I was going to put this one on here anyways, but I still wanted to go through and see if there was any others that I could maybe remove. But I ended up putting on here anyway. Number 12, Illinois at Duke at 12 p.m. on ESPN. I don't remember the last time Illinois was ranked this high. And I think there's a lot of expectations with this team, rightfully so. They had a good year last year. Altmaier, the quarterback, is back. They can play some salty defense. I think they've got a pretty good team. But Duke's interesting. Duke's interesting now. They can score. They got a really good quarterback in Darian Mensah, who transferred in from Tulane.
Yep.
I'm going to go Duke. I think I'm going to go pull with the upset here at home.
Hey, look, I love it. Thank you. Fighting the line now, baby. Fighting the line. I'm going with Illinois.
See, Gene, you know this, and for those that are new to the show, this is where I just get stupid, and I try to get too cute and funny and try to think I know football more than anybody else, and it just comes back to kick me in the ass anyways, and I end up taking the losses. But hey.
Look. Stay in that lane.
Hey,
keep on.
Hey, shooters got to shoot their shot, you know? So, all right.
That's it.
Baylor at number 16, SMU, also at noon on the CW. I don't know if you have that network, but if you don't, I'd suggest trying to find a way to get to this one because this should be an interesting game. Baylor coming off a pretty disappointing opener against Auburn at home. SMU, can they have another season like they did a year ago? They got to the college football playoff, made it to the ACC championship game. Really good quarterback in Jennings. You know what? I think I'm going to go with another upset here, Gene. I think I'm going to go with the Baylor Bears getting the job done. Sawyer Robertson is going to light it up. And I just think Baylor's got more depth. I think they're better, a more well-rounded team. I think SMU's going to really lean on their offense. I think Baylor's going to come into this one pissed off and proving that, hey, they still belong in this national conversation, and they don't want SMU, who's also another small school in Texas, to kind of keep that above them. So I'm going to go Baylor.
Well, there you go. That's another mistake. SMU. The Mustangs, SMU. I just think that the offense is going to be a little bit too much. I think Baylor's going to be probably still upset for what happened to them at the hands of Auburn. I don't think they come in. It'll be a good game.
Mm-hmm.
They stop SMU's offense. So SMU.
Pony Express, huh?
That's it. Yeah.
Now the Cy-Hawk Bowl, and I feel like we pick this one every year, but it's such an interesting game because it's always low scoring. Typically, it's been a one-sided rivalry, but every now and then Iowa State will get their shot. This year, it feels like their chance. So Iowa at number 22, Iowa State, also a noon kick on Fox. I've been back and forth on this one, and I really don't know where to land. I think Iowa State's really talented, and I think the home field edge really – I don't know if it's going to make a difference in this one or not. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of Iowa fans there. I'm going to go with another upset, Gene. And maybe this is the week I'm just going to go 0 for 5. Gronowski, the quarterback for Iowa. This is not your ordinary Iowa offense that scores 14 points a game. This transfer that they got from South Dakota State or South Dakota, wherever he came from, he is legit and maybe changes the expectations there for Iowa. Iowa State, 2 weeks ago, they had that tough game against Kansas State. Didn't look that great. Last week, they bounced back, had an easy win. I think this is potentially their first stub of the toe this season for Iowa State. So I'm going to go with the Iowa Hawkeyes.
I love it. The stub of the toe piece, I love that. Well, you know what? Good thing for me that the Cyclones will be wearing steel-toed boots.
Oh,
so,
man. I should just walk out of the door, out of this room for that one.
I'm just saying, my guy. I'm just saying the Cyclones at home. They get an opportunity to take a bite out of the Hawkeyes. Absolutely. Usually you throw this out the window because they can't stand each other. Iowa State, but the Cyclones, for me, they win this. I'm not saying they'll win big, but they'll win this game at home. Yes.
Hey, I like this. We're going to have some separation one way or another after this week. So, absolutely. Big Ten, SEC, top 20 matchup. It's number 14, Michigan, at number 18, Oklahoma, 7:30 on ABC. I mean, another one, Gene. I've been back and forth on I don't know which way to lean. My gut tells me go with Oklahoma because John Mateer, really dynamic quarterback. I know Bryce Underwood is talented in his own right, the true freshman, but I'm going to go with the guy that has more experience, has the home field edge. I think even though Oklahoma lost Zach Alley on defense, they're still going to play well with Brent Venables at the helm. And I think this is maybe kind of a step back year for Michigan. I don't know that they're going to be at the top of the Big Ten. And I think we're going to see that here in this one. I think Oklahoma takes care of business at home.
Finally, you got one right.
Yeah, baby. There we go. Got one on the board.
Sooner Boomer. I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think Oklahoma definitely takes care of business against Michigan. I think this may be the lights might be a little bit too bright for the freshman quarterback, for the Frosh quarterback. I mean, he's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I watched him last week. He did some good things.
He's getting paid handsomely, too.
Yes, he is. So, look, I don't think it matters what happens. Ching. As long as he shows up, he's going to be all right. But I think this is going to be a little bit too much for him. So I'm going with the Sooners.
Well, it's here, folks. The game you have been waiting for the entire episode. West Virginia making the short trek over to Athens, Ohio to take on the Ohio Bobcats. It's a great start to the Rich Rodriguez 2.0 era with a 45-3 win over the Robert Morris Colonials in Week 1, but things get a little tougher here in Week 2. Can the Mountaineers survive this trap game and advance to 2-0? Here's what Rich Rodriguez had to say about this week's matchup.
Their quarterback, I think, is one of the best in the country. He's really good, really talented. He can take the play that's off and make something happen out of it. And they're the best team in the MAC. I mean, by far last year. I think they're both the championship game they won going away, and it's going to be a big challenge. I think our guys got to learn. I told them we got to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable because we're going to be in a small locker room, a long bus ride against a good team with an explosive quarterback, and it's going to be an interesting challenge.
All right, Gene, West Virginia and Ohio kicking off at 4 p.m. on ESPNU. It's going to be a sellout crowd. We know that. Athens, it's a great town, college town. It's a place that really cares about football and their Ohio Bobcats. But there's going to be a lot of Mountaineer fans there too, Gene. There is, and I know that I've heard a lot of people have said that they even went as far as buying season tickets for Ohio to get to this game. So I think we're going to see an interesting divide among the fans. But as far as the game is concerned, I think this is going to go right down the wire. I really, really do. And I think if West Virginia is not careful, they will lose this game. I'm being 100% transparent with you. If they are not careful with the football, if they don't take this team seriously, they will stub their toe. But fortunately, Gene, I'm going to use your saying here just a second ago. It's a good thing that the Mountaineers are wearing their steel-toed boots, babies, because I think they're going to find a way to do just enough to survive in advance. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it's sexy or not. You just got to find a way to win the game, get back to Morgantown 2-0, and welcome the College Game Day crew and folks back into Morgantown for the first time in over a decade. I'm going to West Virginia but by this much. Not very much. It's going to be tight.
Well, listen, I know what we talked about. I know all the hyperbole and all that good stuff, right? I'm going West Virginia, and I'm going West Virginia double digits.
Really? Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
I think Rich and his staff got together, and they're going to have a great week of practice. I think they're going to clean some things up on offense. I think that he's going to let that Zach Allen's going to let that defense run wild, do what they do. I think they're going to be. I don't think you're going to see the same West Virginia team that you saw against Robert Morris.
You better not.
I don't. I just don't. I don't. I don't think you're going to see that. So, knowing Rich Rod, all I know him and what a game like this, he's licking his chops because he really feels they have something to prove. And what better way to do it than to go to Athens, which is a great outside, where they really good on it, and take them in back of the shed.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting probably a 10 to 14-point victory. That's what I'm expecting for our Mountaineers.
I respect it. And I can see it happen. If they take care of business with the ball and dominate on at least one phase of the game, I think that's very possible. So there you have it. Week 2 of the Walk Thru GameDay Show is in the books. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Eugene and myself will be back on Saturday evening to recap the action on the Mountaineer Postgame Show right here on West Virginia on SI. Sunday morning, I'll be here with the morning after Between Eers episode, and we'll get back into our regular theme. But also, if you haven't already, go back and watch some of the episodes from earlier this week on Between the Eers. Got some good stuff there, and check out the website. We've got, 8, 9, 10 articles going up every single day. It's where the most West Virginia content lives, and we want you to make sure you get all of it. So for Eugene, Napoleon, I'm Schuyler Callihan. Make sure, again, you hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page, and we will see you back here Saturday evening for the Mountaineer Postgame Show.